to the other machine, see what happens. I've got one program here that I want to just demonstrate, but the thing I'm going to show you actually is good for many, many things. It's just that in order to write each one of those programs, it's quite an arduous task. So what I'm going to do is I'll show you one version of how to use the instructions I'm going to set up today. And the instruction is, how do you use the mouse to click on something? Like, for example, if I take the mouse and I click on red here, I can turn the lighting in the room red. If I click on the green button, it turns it green, the blue button turns it white, and the white button turns it back to normal again. So all I've simply done is set up the red circle, the green circle, the blue circle, and the white circle so that it's receptive to you clicking the mouse on it. And the way I did that was each one of those circles is actually a little cylinder. It's thin, it's a very thin cylinder, but it's a cylinder. So basically what I had to do was I had to take make 4 cylinders, and then I had to bring them, turn them, and put them into position underneath the words that were on this piece of cardboard here. In other words, this rectangle is just simply, I just went into the paint program and I wrote the words, and I drew pictures of where I wanted the buttons to be, and that's just all that is just a rectangle with color on it. So it's just a plane is all it is. And then what I did is I made the 4 buttons as cylinders, and normally a cylinder, when it forms vertically. So I had to tip it over the x-axis to get it to be the top of it facing to us, and then I had to move them into position so that the 4 cylinders, which are all created at 0, 0, 0, I had to move them into position so they were where they're supposed to be. So that right there is a little bit of a job, just getting everything into position. And then it turns out that you can set it up so that if you click on any object that you create, no matter what it is, every object you create, it's possible to say, did I click on that object? So for example, that red cylinder is an object. If I click on it, I can say, did I click on that red cylinder? Or did I click on the green cylinder? Or did I click on the yellow surface? Or did I click on the floor or the ceiling or anything? Every single object we create has a name to it, and because in the when we write the programs, what we do is we set up not the names of the original pictures, but what we set up is the names of the objects when they're in the render. Like, for example, I called the red cylinder red. It's a red tube, and there's a green tube and a blue tube and a white tube. Those are basically just cylinders, and you give them those names. And once you give them those names, once you create them, give them those names, you automatically can click on them and say, "Did I click on that?" It comes with the territory. Okay. So I want to show you is how. I don't want to spend a lot of time setting up the console and everything, but unfortunately, I have no choice. I either do that or you won't be able to run the program. So what I'll do is I'm going to write the program, and it probably doesn't hurt to see someone write a program. I mean, that's kind of, because these programs are pretty easy to write. They're short. And so essentially what you see is, if I make a mistake or I don't do this or I don't do that, you see that happen, and you realize when you're writing yourself, if you make that kind of mistake, you know what to do. So I'm going to write the program that's going to set up this exact thing right here, or something similar to it. I've downloaded this picture of color console, the words and everything, and I've downloaded the 4 colors for the cylinders. By the way, the cylinders, all I did to give a red color for a cylinder, all I did was I went to paint, and I made a rectangle out of red, and I saved it and called it xred.jpg. And I just used that to texture the cylinder, so it's just a red texture. Same with the green, blue, and white. They're just simply four JPEG textures. That's all they are. And one thing else I want to mention, if when you click on an object, you can click on the videos as well. We're only going to use JPEGs here, but if it's an MP4, you can click on a movie, and you can make the movie change to something else. You can click on anything you want. It will actually say, oh yeah, you hit the object, and then you simply do whatever you want to do. Okay, so to begin with, let me clear this away here, and I'm going to write the program. I just want to show you over here on the left-hand side. You can see all the images I use. That's the image for the picture says console color. There's the red, green, blue, and white. Those are all the images I'm using in this thing, okay, to create the situation. So I'm going to go back over here so I can write the program. And I'm going into Notepad. No, I don't want to go into Notepad. What I'm going to do is, in order to get all of the controls I really like, controls I want, I'm going to go to WallMaker, make a program, have it set up everything for me, and I'll bring it in. And the only thing I'm going to draw in WallMaker is that color console, is the yellow. I'm going to draw that as a line, and that's going to take that image and put it in that position. So in other words, I will have once I set up color console, I'm going to be able to see it. So let me do that, and you'll see how it all works. To begin with, I want to go to the web and run WallMaker. Raise down a little bit here. Give me a second while I get it up. Whoops, didn't hit a slash. Back up here. Slash WallMaker. Okay, I'm going to reduce the size of this a little bit here, just so you can kind of see it. Okay, this is the WallMaker, the program that makes walls for us. And down below is the information we have to type in. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to use a wood floor. I'll have to fetch that someplace. I didn't pick that in, but I'll get that. So we're going to use a wood floor, ODFLOOR.jpg. That's a kind of standard thing that I put on everything. You can change the floor to anything you want, but I've noticed that it makes it much nicer when you have some constancy. It seems to work better for people to you get control. In other words, if you're in the mountains or in the ocean, no matter where you are, if you have a little ceiling and a floor looking, you can sort of look around and get a little bit of orientation. If you're in a sphere and the whole world is projected on the sphere, it's a little bit disconcerting, but that's a different issue. We'll talk about that later. Anyway, so basically what I got the two floors. I don't have to do anything about that. But now what I have to do is I have to put in the image. I called it console, color console. .jpg. Okay, and now what I have to do is I have to put that console in a position someplace. I'm just simply saying set up that rectangle. I'm going to put it sort of close to the back, sort of like right about here someplace. I'm just arbitrarily setting it up, like so. So now that image, that plane right there will contain the picture of color console. That's all I want to do. Now the other things I want to do, put the cylinders in, I can't do in this program, so I have to take it out. I have to take it back to my computer to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say generate the code. So you see I've only drawn one image there. Put the thing in here, say Control All, and copy it, close it, bring it to the local machine, and open up Notepad. Control V. That's how you get the program into your machine. So it's in my machine now. I'm going to say save as. I'll call it new color. .html, and I want to make sure it's an HTML file and save it. So therefore we have that new color. There it is. It's right up on the upper left hand side there, but you can't see it, but it's right up there. It's up there, I promise. It's right there. Anyway, one other one I want to bring in is I want to bring in the wood floor because I need that color. So let's look. Farmhouse may have it. Let's see if it does. Yeah, it does. It doesn't have the same one, but it's got one that I can use. Copy. I'm going to put that on the desktop. Okay. So now I have wood floor for there too. That's good. So now what I have, if I run this program, new color, if I run it, it should work for me. Let's see what happens. is. There it is. That's
So,
the way
one
it looks.
question I had that you briefly addressed earlier, but I'm just curious, as you mentioned, like some kind of feedback on what you clicked. Is that just like
What?
you had mentioned earlier, just very briefly, sort of like knowing what you clicked on, like every place your mouse has been or whatever? Is it just like, does it just give you feedback on, you have clicked the white button? Or is it something more like a computer's internet browser's browsing history where every time you visit a site it leaves a mark that you've been to a place?
This doesn't, when you program something, it has no mouse, it doesn't know anything.
Right.
If you click the mouse down, you have to say, did I click the mouse down? It doesn't leave any track of anything. When we run our program, our graphics program, we tell the browser and everything to don't do anything. We say, we don't care what you think, forget it. If you see the mouse go down, ignore it, don't do anything. So in other words, nothing that they do affects us.
Okay.
So in other words, when we put the mouse down, we have to tell it to go down. We have to say, did we see this? We have to ask it every question because it doesn't know anything. We have ways of asking those questions, but it won't give you anything on its own. Nothing's free. No, as a programmer, you have to do everything.
So it's not analogous to simply visiting a website and your internet browser, it shows that like knows you've been there.
Yeah, the history thing is a browser. That's browser. That's not.
Okay.
That's okay. This right here, it's coming in a small size. I'm kind of wondering why it's doing that to me. Let me take a look at the program itself. Maybe I made the size wrong or something. I don't know why they did that. Okay, so anyway, there's the thing. If I press the red button, nothing happens. Green, blue, nothing happens because it doesn't know anything yet. All it knows is it has a picture of this rectangle right here, and it has these colored circles drawn on the rectangle. Doesn't have any of the buttons yet. I have to put the buttons where these circles are. I have to insert buttons. Now, I didn't have to put the circles there. That wasn't necessary. But I put them there just so that when I set up the console without the buttons, I would sort of see how it was going to lay out. And so I put them there. Now what I have to do is I have to create the buttons, and I have to put them on top of those circles so they replace the circles. So I'll have rectangles, I have cylinders pointed at us that are on those rectangles of the right color, okay? So the first thing I want to do is I want to add 4 cylinders. The first cylinder is going to be red, the second one's green, the next one's blue, and the next one's white. I have to add those 4 cylinders. That's step number 1 to the program, okay? So what I'll do is, let me get out of here. This is the program. And remember, the only thing we have now is just one rectangle. That's all we have. So now I'm going to add this other stuff. Down here at the bottom, see right there's the roof, the floor, and the wall. And that wall 0 contains that yellow thing. That's all it is. It's that yellow thing. Okay, so I just want to be sure I write everything correctly here. So to be consistent with it, so if you go online, you'll see the same program. So I gave these cylinders the names red, green, blue, and white. Obvious reasons. I just gave them those names so I'll know what I'm grabbing a hold of and everything. So first thing I want to do is I want to create a script that will create the cylinders one at a time. So the first thing I do is watch my spelling, you guys, see if I make any mistakes here. Script, variable. Oops, I already made a mistake. Let me just space this down a little bit and get that stuff out of the way. Okay. Script, variable, red equals new space cylinder open 20, comma 20. What I did is I made the cylinders 20 in radius, top and bottom, okay? But I made them very short. I could have made them any height I wanted to, but I just made them short. So the little short cylinders, they're only 2 units wide, tall. They're short, squat cylinders is what they are. And then I gave it the 32 business. And then I called the first one X red. That's the color of it, is X red. So shift X, R-E-D.
So
What?
The cylinders. I'm not quite understanding, like, I guess I understand, like, you know, you have the 4 colors that you click, but what is the purpose of the cylinder more so than just, instead of like a button that is a command, changes things?
The cylinder is what you have to work with. You only have the commands that you have. You can make a cylinder, sphere, plane, you know, a cone, and
Oh, those
box,
shapes.
donut. We only have a handful of things we can make.
But like, what is the use of the cylinders in this case, and what are we?
We're making it's a short cylinder. It's a button. So in other words, it looks. I mean, we're thinking of it as a button, but actually it's a cylinder that's usually that tall. I
Right.
squeeze it down and flip it over and put it in a position.
Right.
So it's a little short cylinder.
And by clicking on that, it.
That's right. Any object you create, you can click on. I mean, if you
Okay.
click on that cylinder, you say, "Did I hit that cylinder?"
So
You say yes.
basically, but it's being used as a button, and that clicking it is like a command to do something. In this case, change the color of the light.
What happens is, which I haven't got to yet, there's going to be a command that's going to say, when you click on something, what did you click on? It'll tell you what you clicked on.
Like you have clicked the blue button.
Well, it won't do it that way. It'll record that thing, and then you say, well, if the click that I just did hit that, then do this. If it hit this, do that.
So it's an
But
instant.
let me write the code, and you'll see how it works.
right.
Okay, I can see that there's different ways. Okay, but let's just put the red one down first, just to get it down. Okay, that's the first cylinder, and I believe it's all there. So it's called red. So up above, I have to put the tubes up here, right? I'll put them at the top. I'm going to do mostly cut and paste stuff because otherwise we'll be here all day. Red dot tube, whoops, dot position, dot x equals 0. Okay. So that's the x position. And now I got to put the y and the z. So this is the y position. If I type anything that you guys don't know what I'm doing, ask me, because this is, if you see me programming, it's much better, much easier for you to figure out. I've got to figure it out while I'm doing this. Is better than going home and trying to figure it out. So this is a rotation here. Every time you create a new object, you have to create its position and rotation. These 6 things have to be created. This one here. Okay. Now, first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to say save. First thing I'm going to do is, I'm just going to run the program. See, and this is what you should always do. You should always put in all the things you need to make the thing render, and then you run the program, look to see if it's what you expect it to be. And then you can start twisting and moving around, doing all that stuff. So at this point, all I've done is I said, build this red tube, and it's going to be 20 radius and 20 radius on each end. It's going to be too deep, so it's going to be a very short thing. And if you run it, and what you should see, because of the fact that it always produces a cylinder this way, you're going to see a little wafer. It's going to look like a line, a thick, sort of a thick line to us, because it's, before I turn it over, it's a pretty little flat cylinder. So let me run it now, see what happens. Maybe I made a typo. Let me just check. I must have made a typo someplace. Red 2 position X, red 2 position Y, Z, X, Y, Z, rotation, red 2. That part looks okay. Let's go down here and see what I did. Variable red. Oh, wait a second. Did I do that right up there? Yeah. Variables red. new cylinder, 2020, too tall, 3232, JP, there it is. See right there? Can you see what the mistake is there? Right there? There's no quote mark at the end of the, JPEG. That's the kind of thing you got to really be careful of, is because any little typo like that, it only takes one. As you see, the program didn't work. That one thing stopped it from working. So if I run it now we should see what I expect to see. But don't ever, when something doesn't work, just look at the code you wrote and try to figure out if that code is what you intended to write. Well, there's the red part. That's because I'm so close. I'm going to back up here. See it? You see the cylinder right there? That red thing right there is the cylinder. It's pretty big, isn't it? It's too big, in fact. I'm going to change it from 20. I'll bring it down. The first thing I want to do is I'm going to flip it over so we can look at it, so I can compare its size to the dots. I want to bring it to the same size as the dots are, so when I cover them up, it'll be a little bit bigger than that. So this right here is a cylinder. Now I'm going to do is I'm going to tilt it over the x-axis so that it will we can see that it's actually a circular object. Okay. So I go back up here. It's called red tube, and over the x-axis I'm going to bring it 90 degrees, which is this is our language in radians. That's 90 degrees. Math, capital PI /2 divided by 2. Basically, math.pi is a straight line, and half of that is vertical, is 90 degrees. So now what should happen is we should see the top end of the cylinder. Okay. Back up. What did I do? Oh, I know why. Do you see what I did? See this thing? It's moved a little bit to the right. Because what I did was, instead of having it rotate, I changed the position.
You just translate.
So it went to the right. Instead of rotating positively, it moved positively. I mean, you can tell by looking at it what you do. So I'm going to look back to this thing here and do it right. See that thing right there is position X. No good. That should be 0. Right there.
There should be rotation.
Copy this thing. Put 0 in its place. And down here at rotation, around X, put that in. Try it again, huh? Okay, see what happens. A lot of programming is pretty tedious. You just basically have to keep checking your own mistakes and plodding along till you get it all done. That's why you should probably do not a lot of them. I'd say that was pretty good size. Now here's what the problem is. Watch what happens here. If I rotate around, I'm going to take a trip over here. I'm going to walk over this way. And I'm going to look back at this thing. This thing was created at 0, 0, 0, and that's still where it is. When I drew the wall, I drew it back away from the origin and moved it back towards the back wall. The trouble now is they're both not in the same place. I don't like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the console up to 0, 0, 0. In other words, I'm going to bring the console up to where this guy is here, so everything will be in the same place. Okay? I shouldn't have drawn it so far back. I just drew it in the wrong place. So here's what you do. You say, okay, that wall right there is at -8 in the x. We don't want that anymore. We want that to be 0. We want the z to be 0. And rotation, I'm going to make that 0 too. I don't want to rotate. See, the rotation is so little anyway. 0, 0, 7 is very small anyway. So I'm saying, just put that wall right in the origin in its normal upright position. Now the red circle, the red cylinder, and the wall should be in the same spot. See what they look like. Which kind of looks not too bad, huh?
So now do you just
Now if I go over
translate
here, if I go to the right,
to where
I go to here and I turn around, you can see that you can see the red circle is right against. It's so small. In fact, you can't even see it. You can't see its depth thickness because it's so thin, but it's right against here. Just for fun, let me change the thickness of it. Let me change the height of the cylinder so that way the button will come out. It will come out in both directions. That way you'll see that button is there. We can't see it now because it looks pretty much like it would look. I'm going to do another thing too. First thing, let me change the thickness of the button to start with down here. And pardon me. What do we got here? This is the cylinder. Where did I put that down? Here it is, right here, cylinder right here. I'm going to change that 2 to 20. I'll make it thick also, same thickness as it is. Say that's the first thing I'm going to do. The second thing I'm going to do up above here, I'm going to withdraw. Don't forget, you have these total X and total Z here. It tells you where the camera is. I'm going to bring the camera back to 100, back this way. So it's going to back the camera up. Initially, it's going to start the camera off at total Z at 100.
But you can move from that position forward, right?
What?
You can't, even though you're like for 100 units further back, you can still walk forward, if you will, by using the forward arrow key, right?
I don't know what you mean.
Like, you just moved the camera's view back.
That means initially it's going to be in that position.
But you can still walk around.
It doesn't change anything, right?
Okay.
Yeah, you
so
still
you
can
can
control. But there is one problem. I can tell you, if you use WallMaker, WallMaker has a bunch of tests that says don't move outside that wall, those walls. So if I put 1,000 there, for example, I would go to 1,000, but I wouldn't be able to go anywhere because as soon as WallMaker said outside those walls, I wouldn't do anything.
Because your
I'd be
walls,
stuck out there. Yeah.
Your boundaries are smaller than 1,000 units.
But you can kill the boundary test, but we haven't done that yet. But right now we're at 100, and that's within it. It's usually, I think it's like 250 to get outside the wall, something like that. It's something like it's about that size.
So you're well within your range.
So let's see what it looks like. Now at this time you should see two things. You should see the cylinder more like a cylinder rather than like just a flat circle. And we should be back further from it. So let me just go forward a little bit and take a look at it now at that cylinder. A little bit further. I turn towards it. See it? If I can get it up here. See, so actually now you can see it's a cylinder. It's thicker. It was only 2 before, now it's 20. So when I tip it over, half of it, that's 10 of it in front. If I go through the wall here, I just go right through the wall to the back, you can see the other half is back here. See, because it's right in the center. The cylinder's right in the center. It rotates over its center. That's what it does. Okay? So now, next thing I want to do is, now that I got that done, I got to figure out how to line this thing up. Now here's the problem. When I look at this thing, when I drew the circles on in Paint program, they were circles, but now they've become oval, and the reason why is because when I drew that line, I drew it too big, and it stretched it too far this way. So what I have to do now is I have to visually say, okay, I got to bring this, I got to make it shorter. The X direction's too long. I got to squeeze it back to its normal size. So I have to do this manually because I didn't do it when I first did the thing. So what you do is you go down to the instruction right here that says make that wall right there. See, it says wall 0. What it did is it calculated this right here as its X. And that's its Y. The Y is always 200 because that's the way the walls are. They're always 200 tall. But the X one is the one that it calculates how much do I have to stretch to fit it into the area. So what I have to do here is I have to say, well, I don't like that anymore. So I'm going to change that to, I'm going to change that big number right there, which is its current width, which is too big. Bring it in. I'm going to bring it in about 350. Let's try that. It's just a guess. That might not be enough or it might be too much. I don't know. So in other words, what I've done is I brought the wall in, so the wall's now shrunk a little bit. And let's see what happens. Every time I do these changes, I have to save, by the way. I do a little save on the thing. Okay, back up a little bit here. It's still slightly oval. That wasn't even enough. Let me bring it down to 300. I'll make it enough. We'll shrink it till it looks just about right. I want the thing to fit on top of it pretty closely, so I'll bring that down to, let's bring it down to 320. How's that? 310. That's a big jump, so we'll see what happens. So now what I should have done is I should have brought the wall in, and those ovals should have become more circular because they're being shrunk in their shape. That's not too bad. They're circular enough. They're close enough. They're still a little bit oval, but they're close enough. So in other words, I can get that. Now I can get that red circle right there on top of that red circle, and that will be my first button. Okay. So what I have to do now is I have to move this down a little bit in the Y direction, and I have to move it in the negative X direction quite a bit. So I'm going to move it like let's move it. Let's move it 200 in the minus X direction, and I'll move it 20Y down. So 20 negative Y and 20 in this direction, trying to get this cylinder over that red dot. So when I press it, it will say red. It'll make it red for us, okay? So I go to the wall, up here where the wall is, at wall 0, and I position this thing at minus 200 because I'm going to move it that way. So I'm moving it minus 200, and I'm positioning the Y direction minus 20. I'm going to move it down 20. Let's see what that looks like. You can see this is the futzy stuff that you always have to deal with. If you could do calculations, I could have set the thing up so it was properly made up and everything. But if you do that sometimes, you know, the artistic stuff, what you end up with is very formalized looking, everything's in the right position. If you kind of do it artistically just by trying to make it look good, then everything's not quite where you want it. I think something went wrong there. What did I do? I didn't put the minus sign. That's a good start, right? Oh, what did I move? Oh, I moved the plane. I didn't move the cylinder. I moved the plane this way. I didn't move instead of moving the cylinder that way. So actually, I typed it in the wrong place. Okay, so that's right. See, the plane was, well, that's no good. That should be 0. Don't want to change that. What do I want to change? Do you know? Remember that? What's the thing I want to change?
To move it down or to move it
back? What do I want to move? What object?
It needs to be positioned.
The red tube, like?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we move that one.
Red tube got
In the X direction, we want to move minus 200.
And then Y, you're going to have to move it maybe like minus 20 or something.
I think we did minus 20. Try that again. Minus 20. That was just a guess, but well, I don't know if these are going to work.
We can fine tune it from there.
But at least we're in the right. We're moving the right object now instead of wrong objects. Okay. Is that true? It's got to be kidding. No.
So maybe
they're too good to be true.
So could we do like minus 150 instead?
I would say that's about. What do you think? 150 about right? So minus 150. It's the Y is the Y looks pretty good to me, but it might be off. But it's pretty close.
We can fine tune it though from there.
Yeah, let's try that minus 150. That might be the way to go. That's like a quarter of the way back.
This troubleshooting is actually really helpful to understand it, doing it wrong a bunch of times first.
Yeah.
It gives me just like a greater understanding of what all the things do.
Right. And by the way, I'm also reminding you that this is the best way to do it. If you do it by putting everything in, then everything's all over the place. And you say, what's going on here? Oh, we're pretty close now. We're not doing too bad.
Maybe minus 140? Or 130.
I think 130. I'd say 130. Guys, go for 130. Let's try 130. I'm not sure, but I think 130 is a good try.
135. We'll compromise.
You think so? Okay, we'll give you 135, but I think it's going to be still too far. 45. It's only 15. That's not very much. see what happens.
It's funny how you still sometimes have to be like really just brute force Rube Goldberg with some of these things, getting it to like.
This is Rube Goldberg.
Well, I'm just reminded of.
I mean,
like,
that's what
brute
programming.
force-
That's what programming is.
I'm
Really.
reminded of like the brute force algorithm, like the mathematical one.
Well, I think 135.
130 then.
Even less than that. I think it's 125 even. Let me bring it down to 125 just to be sure.
127.5.
I don't want to go too far, but I think that's about right. One more time. Still not enough. Amazing, huh? 110. God, it might even be 100, but I'm going to give it 110 just to see if it is. Try 110. I think this ought to do it. What do you think? Pretty close, isn't it?
We can pass it. It needs to maybe just go up slightly and over, just ever so slightly.
Yeah, it has to go up a tiny bit, that's true.
3 units or something.
And over to the right, well, this might be parallax, so let's see if it is. I'll back up a little bit here. See, that's just parallax. In other words, as you get closer, you get to see the inside of the thing, so it looks like it's distorting outward. It's pretty close. It's just about right, except that a little bit higher would be helpful. Okay, let me bring it up 5.
And is this actually in pixels? Like I've been saying units, or is it just in the arbitrary units that could be miles, centimeters, whatever?
That's arbitrary, yeah.
So by moving it, you didn't just move it like 15 pixels.
It also depends on how close you are, because the closer you are, the bigger it is. I mean, what do we use for, you know?
Okay.
You've got a ruler that's not easy. You could put a ruler in the system, I think, and then move it around. You could do that. See, it's just the parallel. See how close we are here? If I back up now, that circle becomes much more circular, and you don't see the sides of it anymore. So I'm going to leave it there. I think that's close enough. So in other words, I'm going to assume that red, green, blue, and white all go down minus 15. So that right away, you get that out of the way. Now the question is, you got to make the green thing and position it. Okay, so I'm going to make the green. Tell you what, just to make this a little bit faster for us, I'm just going to make the green and the blue. I'm not going to make any more. I'm not going to make the white. It's too many buttons. I'll just make. In fact, I should only make the red and the green. Why don't I do that? Just make 2 of them. The other 2 are exactly the same. But let's make the green button now. But I normally would make a blue button and a white button and do the same thing. But I'm just going to make the green one just so we can get on with what we're really trying to accomplish here. What I really want to do is show you how to press those buttons and make something happen. So I'm going to make the green button right now. And now at the bottom here, this cylinder right here is red, and the other one's called green. So I'll put that down here. Green. And it uses X green as a color. God damn it. Okay, how's that? There it is. Now I gotta create the green cylinders up above here. What the hell did this just do to me? What the heck did it just do?
Something apparently.
How did it do that? What the hell is this thing here? Format. What the heck did this just do? It's right shifted there for some reason. Why did it do that? Look at that.
I think it was something that happened when you right clicked.
What, right here?
When you right clicked.
When you right click on it? Oh, you're absolutely right. What a genius. Good for you. It's exactly right. Okay. I hate it when it does stuff like that. It drives me nuts. Okay, so now I want to create the green thing here up above. Your red tube. I want to create the green tube right here. Okay. I don't want the green tube in the same position, of course, so I'm going to put these back to 0. The X should be 0. The Y I do want the same. I have to rotate it the same way here, but the Y would be the same. The X is going to be different, so I won't do anything yet. This does have to rotate, and so that should do it. That should give us what we need. Let's see if it works. Now I should have the green tube that's pointed at us the same way as the red tube does, only it's going to be in the middle. It's red. I have to change the color. That's right, I didn't change the color. It's got to be the green tube. I left the red one there. So basically it's in the right position. Why? I just got to get it over that way. Probably about 50 maybe. Get it 50 that way, and I have to change the color, so let's do that. I think when I hit that last thing, that weird thing there, yeah, right. When I was replacing this when I hit the weird right button. Okay, and I want to move it over in the, I want to move it in the X direction, minus 100. Is that correct? Wall 0? No, that's the wall. That's not it. Get my act together here. Green tube, right here. Green tube, minus 100 here. Okay. Let's see what happens. Went much too far, didn't I? So I got to come back. I should come back about 75 maybe. Minus 100. Should be minus 75. I'll bring it back to 70. Let's bring it back to 70, see what happens. This is the hard part of this whole thing, is to get this all straightened out. Just got to come back more. Back to 75. I should get back to 50, I think. That's amazing. That's a lot more than I thought it would be. I think that's because of the parallax, though. Okay. It's because of the parallax. When you're close to something, it's hard to guess how far. This always looks bigger than that does out there because it's parallaxed, and so it gives you a bad viewpoint trying to figure out. It isn't like looking at something that's orthogonally exactly the same in all different places. Pretty close. Okay, I'm going to bring it back another 15, that's it. 15 would be 35, is that correct? And that's it. I'm going to leave it there. Okay, now, let's just assume that's going to work. Next question is, now I have to say, how do I press those buttons? How does that happen? Well, they both have a name. One's called green tube and the other one's called red tube, okay? So what I do is, up in the area where you press the mouse down, there's already built in here a place where it says, see, this says function mouse down. When you press the mouse, it goes to that function. That always has done that for us. So now what we want to do is I want to go to that function, but what I want to do is, see this, I'm going to put my cursor in here and I'm going to hit space a bunch of times. Because all this stuff down here, that mouse down has got a different situation. What that mouse down does is it allows us to look up and look left and right and stuff like that. But I don't want to do that. What I want to do is, before I actually use the mouse to look around, I want to say, did I click on something? And if I clicked on something, I want to do what that is and get out of this routine, because I don't want to have it start going up and down and everything. So basically the trick is, if you're going to click on something, you've got to put your commands to do that after mouse down, after that opening, whatever it is, there, and put it right in here, and don't go below any of these guys, because these guys, if they pick up on it, the mouse is going to start moving the screen around. You don't want to do that. What you want to do is just cause the mouse to grab this object. And here's how you do it. There's a command, and the command's always the same, and I always use the same variable name. That way it makes it easier for us. I just made up this name, but I keep it. Variable right here. Call the variable OB, object. Just OB, just call it OB. There'll be no other variables with that name, just call it OB, okay? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, when I put the mouse down and clicked on something, it goes down to this function right here, which is, which I called, the name of this function which I used is grab object, which is a nice name, grab object. That's it right there. What that does is, that's like saying, which object did I hit? You just ask the question, which object did I hit? Okay, so it comes back, OB becomes which object you hit. It either becomes, in this case, it could become a lot of things, but the most likely thing is going to be either red tube or green tube. That's going to be one of those two names, because that's what you're clicking on. Okay, so what you can say is, now that you've got this object, OB contains one of those names, what you simply say is, does OB, if OB is equal to, let's say we clicked on the red button, red.tube. If that's true, that means we clicked on the red button. And then it's an if statement, so you do whatever you want to do out there about that. So what I do out there, I'm going to change this, put this thing in here. I think I'm going to put this thing in here. What I have to do is I have to say ambient light. Oops, ambient light, same name. Ambient, didn't spell it right. Jesus, I should get a special award for typing.
You're fine.
See if that looks right. So here's what I'm saying. You grab the object's name, and you say, if that name equals red tube, then turn the ambient color to red. That's how you change the color. That's from the last class, okay? So therefore, if it happens to be OB equals red tube, then do that. If it equals green tube, right here, red, if it equals green tube, it equals that name. Then what you do is you set it not to red. You want to set that to white again. You want to set the second 2 here to green, which is FF. There it is. So in other words, what you have now is 2 statements. The first one says, well, if the OB you just captured is red, turn the light red. If it's green, turn the light green. Okay, and that's all there is to it. So you say save and run the program, see what happens. And notice if I hit anything else, nothing happens. It doesn't affect anything. It only affects something if you hit one of those buttons now, because those buttons have a name. Like, for example, if I back up here, if I say, oh, hit the console, if I click on that, nothing happens. Click on the ceiling, nothing happens. Click on that red button, and the light turns red. Click on the green button, the light turns green. If I click on anything else, nothing else causes anything to happen. That's because we set up our function so that when we press the button, it says, is it red? Is it the red object, red dot tube, or is it green dot tube? Which object is it? And do whatever you have to do. Does that make sense? So that's how you do it. That's how you use these things. Now you can use it to, you can do all kinds of things with it. Let me see if I have a program here online. I'll show you. There's many possibilities, but that's the basis. Let's go to I'm going to bring out the program Telegraph first.
Mm-hmm.
This is a program from last semester. There's something in it that you can't do yet, so that's why I didn't put it up there. Okay, there's the Telegraph program right there. If I click on the Telegraph, see what happens is, when I click on it, it goes to routine, and it says change the position of that thing and make a beeping sound, then come back. So every time I click on it, it just simply says, if I'm clicked on this object right here, which has a name, it just does what it's supposed to do. Make sense? So it's very. I'm just capturing the what?
Can you also hold it down, like? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, right. Let me get the other one. The other program is a little bit different. I think it's called Calliope. See if, I hope that's the way I spelled it. That's correct anyway. This one's the same thing. Basically, I made a bunch of cubes that are stretched on one side. This is a bunch of cubes. And I made, the scale and it's just white cubes, that's all. And then this right here is a bunch of black cubes. That's all it is black cubes. Each one of them has a name. And behind each one of them, I put a musical note. So when I click one of them, it not only goes down, but it plays that musical note. So if I go, see, really, that's all it does is go down and make a noise. That's all it does. I don't think I can hold it, though. See if I can. Yeah, I guess I can. It's even better than I thought. Got it? It's exactly the same thing. All it is, if you look at this program, you're going to see all these objects. Each key is an object. Each black key is an object. And you're going to see a bunch of if statements up there. If I hit that key, do this. If I hit that key, do that. That's all there is to it. And let me just show you what the program looks like, though, because they're actually, because of the fact you have 8 notes here and 5 half notes, you can see the program's got a lot of stuff in it. First, I had to bring in all the notes, the sounds for all the notes. That took all that right there. Each sound has to be brought into the program. And then I have to have a way of making all those make noises, so it has to have a function for each one of them to make a noise. And that's these right here. I say if I hit the key of C, do this. If I hit the key of D, do this. If I hit the E, do this. And I play the sound, and that's all there is to it. It's just a lot of work. It's just a lot of work behind it. That's it. And that pretty much takes care of those programs. There's one of the things that I'd like to show you that I'm gonna upload the instruction here that we're using, so you'll know that You'll know how to, I mean, I'll have a program there with a demo in it that shows you how to do it. In fact, there may be one up there now. Let me just take a look. I think I put one up last night. I'm not sure. By the way, I also mentioned the final project here, which is essentially putting some of this stuff together. No, I guess I didn't put it up. I wrote it too late, I think. Okay, so I'll have to deal with that. The final project is actually, it's pretty much what you'd expect. You have to make a room or something like that, and you have using WallMaker, and then you have to add some stuff in, movies, sounds, and so forth. We haven't got all the instructions yet. Next week I'm going to give you some other instructions, which will give you some much more fun things to do. But we have the major stuff all behind us. We've looked at video. We know how to get videos onto it. We know how to get spheres and rectangles and make walls and all that stuff. So those things are all done. Now there's some other things I want to do that are kind of fun, and I'll set those up. There's some projects here from students from last year, and let me see if one of the best ones here is quite incredible. This one here is quite good, if that's operational still. She worked on this for a really, really long time. We'll be able to add these particle type things. We'll be able to do that after this week. Let's see what we got. Sometimes you have to open it up again to get the last pictures. See, she might be working on this. I don't know if she's done any work on this or not. I'm not sure. Because they still have these sites, and I don't know whether she left it in. Now, she got, this looks like a weird site, but if I go forward on this thing, and if I go into this black hole right here, if I just go into it, I gotta go right into it though. I'm inside the black hole now. So she had it rigged. So you go in the black hole, you find yourself in this other place here. I thought she did a good job here. It was quite cool. And that's it. Yeah, I think she worked on this a little bit. As far as the amount of work done, I think that was the best one we had last semester, but that's about it. There's a lot of them there. You should take a look at them. Sometimes you have to open them up again, depending on where you are. If you're you got a slow connection, it's going to be a nuisance because you got to wait till all the movies come in. Some of them are pretty big, but if you're in university, you probably should be able to get these pretty quickly. And that's it. I'll be here for a while, but that's pretty much what I wanted to cover today. Is the ability to click on stuff and make something happen. I'll put some more programs up tonight that'll show you how to, you can press something and make a sound. You can press to have something disappear. You can do anything you want in the if statement, but you just have to be able to say, did you hit this object when you pressed on it? And that's all you need to do. So that's pretty much it.